Wow, I think this is the biggest crowd that we've ever had in here. This is amazing. And so on to our next guest. We're absolutely thrilled that Jill and Wendy managed to book not only Steve Pemberton yesterday, but his great friend and writing partner too for today. We know our next guest from the League of Gentlemen, Psychoville, Inside Number 9, but he's done so much else too, and maybe we'll have the time to delve into some of those lesser known corners of his career too. Just arrived all the way from Royston Vasey on the number 9 bus to Sheffield. Give a big HorrorCon UK welcome to Reece Shearsmith. I've just noticed a sign above us there that says slagging imminent. I can assure you that won't be Steve in there. Take a seat. Well, absolute rock star welcome. Even Steve didn't get that yesterday.
I know, of course not.
So lovely to have you here. Shall we get the book plug out of the way?
Oh yes, of course.
Things I took from the dark, out in October. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I've been writing this since, I was writing it during Stage Fright, which we did last year. I started writing it in October last year. And it's just a book, it's a bit of a memoir. I never thought it would be, but I put together the book is a museum of items that have stayed with me since I was a kid. And then during telling those stories about those creepy things, you sort of get a bit about my childhood. So if you like the kind of things I like, horror double bills and a lot of old stuff, and we're a monster kid basically. That's what this book is. And I've done all the drawings as well. The fun part for me was having a reason to draw again, because I don't really do it. I do the odd bits, but it was lovely to stay in that world and draw lots of illustrations. So out in October, I think I'm going to do some signings and a bit of a little tour of it with the book. So hopefully I'll see you again at one of those things.
Super. Now, I do movie introductions at my local cinema in Derby, and I'm going to be introducing a screening of La Cabina next month. I understand that you're going to be introducing that somewhere too. Tell us about your love of that film and about how nice it is to be in a position where you're able to talk about all your favourites.
Yeah, well, La Cabina is this Spanish film that was on TV when we were growing up, and it was always a late night thing that would be on, and it's like a little... It's like an Inside Number 9, basically, is what we slightly was inspired by to do our show. It's just this great short about this man that goes into a phone box and he just closes quietly behind him and then he can't get out. And the whole episode is him in this phone box. And how funny it is to start with, people laughing that he can't get out, and then he's sort of like going along with it. He's embarrassed because everyone's looking at him. And it just gets worse and worse, and then it becomes a horror film, basically. So that, and in the way it was filmed, in just the whole thing being about that one thing, was very inspirational for us in ultimately telling our stories, and that idea of staying with a real-time thing. It's a very Tales of the Unexpected type little film, but very famous. I used to be on late night, and I would catch it and think, and I could never find the beginning. I'd started, and I was thinking, what the name is this film? So they've released it recently on Blu-ray, and me and Steve did a commentary for it, talking about it as an inspiration, and just what a great little horrible film it is. So if you've never seen it, it's a really good, check it out. There's a screening of it in June 19th, I think it is, at the Prince Charles in London. So I'm going to be doing a little chat about it then as well.
Yeah, we'll have to swap notes on it.
Yes.
How nice is it to be in a position where you can talk about stuff like that and things you were watching on TV 40 or 50 years ago?
Absolutely. I mean, I've made a career of just robbing other people's ideas and making them into something that looks like it's my thing, and then talking about it as if the inspirations were other people's things. But it's an amazing thing, and I pinch myself every day that we are allowed to do what we do, and had and occupied a place on telly for so long with Number 9. We got to do everything, you know. It was such a great opportunity to try so many different things, different types of comedy, because we every week had a new slot. So basically we did like 55 different pilots and explored telling stories on telly. And until we got to the point where we thought, well, let's start exploding the idea of telling stories on telly. So when we had the opportunity of doing the live episode and tricking the audience into thinking it had gone wrong, that was such a great thing to do. And if we could pull it off, the hardest thing in all the 10 years of Number 9 was keeping the surprises. You know, it's so hard. They want to know what your program is about, all ahead of the time with the press. And so always trying to keep a lid on even the plot. Because when you read the thing and you go, yeah, I read that was going to happen, I read that was going to happen. All our bits and our bits that we would put in place were surprises, or we hoped they would be. So to try and keep nothing, give nothing away was really hard.
Yeah. So even stuff like the Radio Times listing and things,
yes.
And newspaper
Yeah. I mean, it got to the point where we made up Hold On Tight, this idea of this bus episode, because I was sick of people saying, why don't you do it on a Number 9 bus? And he was like, yeah, all right, but what happens on the 9 bus? So we thought, let's pretend we've done one. And then we swapped out with this idea of this game show with Lee Mack. So we thought that would be quite a fun trick to pull. But really hard, because BBC is scared about doing, actually tricking people. People need to know that it's not quite, you don't want to give anyone a heart attack. Yeah. Although it would have been great if it had. I regret that.
Now, yesterday, Steve gave us the full, unexpurgated Reece version of that story. You've been a little more mild. Now, talking of Steve, he said plenty of nice things about you yesterday, so here's your chance to whatever you want to say about him. I'll ask about your writing partnership, and what's the process when you sit down to prepare a project or pen a script?
Who are you talking about? Oh yes, that guy, that other man, yes. Well, I think we got better at it, about daring to think that we even are writers. You know, for a long time, because I don't think I am a writer. Steve enjoys that process more than me. I find it like homework. I enjoy the thought of ultimately acting the parts, and a lot of it is about writing things that I think suit me and would be good fun to do. But then, a lot of the writing, we would have ideas for things and we write, and increasingly as the series went on and on, we would write not knowing who would play what. I'm sure you said this yesterday, but we had a tussle at the end as to which one we thought we should play. And it would always sort of even out in the end, because it would be like, I'm doing kind of sympathetic character there, I'd play the baddie here. So we would try and, across the 6 new stories, even it out so it looks like we're not doing the same thing over and over, which of course we do ultimately do. But writing in the room, we sit, we talk a long time, and think of something, and we just start to explore it, and then think, if you were going to tell that story, and if there is a twist, what would it be? Sometimes we had a good ending and not the beginning, and we would just write and talk a long time before beginning writing, so then when we began to write, we didn't dry up thinking we don't know what we're doing. So it was always good to have slightly a structure of what we need to tell the story, and then plough through till the end. That was our way of doing it.
Okay, now we're always allocated a 30-minute slot for these interviews, and that's nowhere near enough to cover everything in your career. So I am going to jump around and generalise a little. I asked Steve yesterday about stage fright, which I unfortunately didn't get to see. Your live Inside Number 9 theatrical show. I'm sure many of our audience did come. Now, do you enjoy live performance and that instant engagement and connection with an audience as much as you do TV, radio, movies, etc.?
Yeah, I think more than Steve, I enjoy doing live more. I really enjoyed being in the theatre, just the whole world of it. And I think, probably, I've been asked a lot of times, which do you prefer? And I think I do like the live experience, the reaction back, the fact that it is always slightly different every night. It's madness because you get the opportunity to do it again every night. And you don't really ever stick with, I found it now, that's the end, that's the base level, I'll never change it. And with comedy, especially when every night is slightly different and you've got to be on your toes delivering a punchline, you know, you don't want to think it's so delicate, but it is. You know, there's someone can cough over a feed line and then that laugh doesn't happen. And so you've got this endless reaching for this perfect version, which of course filming is sort of that, because you've got 2 goes, 3 goes if you're lucky, at a version of committing to the screen, and then you have the edit, which can make you look worse or better. So I think all in all, I think the live experience and having that feedback immediately, there's nothing like it, especially with our things. When we went and did number 9 stage right out on the tour in London, it was so brilliant. You never get, you know, this is amazing to me that you're all here and you like what we do, because you never get, my mum rings me and says, oh, we saw you last night. Yeah, good again. And that's the best I get. So to hear that there are, seeing other people coming to the shows and telling us that they like it is very encouraging.
Yeah, so those viewing figures are true then.
Yes,
you can see them right here.
Not lies.
Yeah. Now, about maybe 45, 50 years ago, there was a crop of Agatha Christie adaptations hit the cinemas, and I bet you're a big fan of all those, Evil Under the Sun, Death on the Nile, all those. You got to appear in something very similar in the past few years, See How They Roll, which is a film that I thought was massively underrated.
Oh, well, thank you. It's sort of, in lockdown, the film.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, tell us a bit about that. You played producer John Wolfe, who I think is a character, if people sort of researching, he's someone who there really ought to be a whole film about sometimes.
Yeah, and weirdly, John Wolfe, who I ended up playing in that film, was he the exec producer on Tales of the Unexpected?
Yes,
I think he was, yeah, and that was a weird link for me to be in that character, decades later.
He started out in about the 1930s.
Yeah, but the idea of an ensemble in a murder mystery and being one of the suspects was great, and I think I was, delighted to do it. It was a great cast, amazing to work with Sam Rockwell, who was lovely and very open to play and just doing a few improv scenes. I had a lot more in it, so when I ended up watching it, I thought, people are going to go, why has he done that? He's hardly in it. But I had loads more in it. I don't know why it was cut, it was shit. But there was some funny things in it, it was a shame, but in the end, everyone had to have a bit. That's the thing with an ensemble where you are one of the suspects. Everyone has to have their little bit, so everyone got reduced a bit. But I enjoyed it, it was good fun. And it was great, we did it in lockdown. We filmed, they reproduced the Mousetrap set at the Old Vic. So we were able to film it in so many theatres because they were all shut. Yeah. So it was a weird thing where you saw West End and backstage of theatres, because they can't do it because there's always things in all the theatres. So if you never really get films about theatre, and that's why, but this time, this strange time when everything was closed was the perfect time to do it.
Okay, and Adrian Brody, Saoirse Ronan, amazing
cast, yeah, really good, it was great.
And doing a sort of Agatha Christie style movie that's actually about Agatha Christie.
Yes, absolutely, and Shirley Henderson ended up playing Agatha Christie.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're looking for the deleted scenes version of this.
I think it is a bit shit, probably. I think you must never see those outtakes.
Now, I'm going to read my next question from my notes, because I've had to word this fairly carefully because of the subject I'm going to talk about. The question involving 21st century cancel culture, and you've portrayed, obviously, Papa Lazarou, well-known League of Gentlemen character, that extraordinary Tina Turner scene as Maureen in the Now, is it possible to bring nuance, if that's the word, or at least different levels and layers of meaning and intent to a characterisation of that time, that some viewers would immediately respond to negatively, whether it's on a racial theme of sexuality or other potentially contentious areas?
Yeah, it's hard. The League now, I think you would tiptoe through it, but at the time, when we did the Maureen in particular, we'd seen a documentary where someone was doing their Tina Turner, and we just thought, what a brilliant moment to drop the bombshell that Maureen had cancer in the middle of doing this her party night, which was just this thing. So really, it was a sort of tragicomic, awful, excruciating moment. We thought, what could be the worst worst possible point in which to someone gets shouted at, you've got cancer, from David having to say that at that point. So, and weirdly, I have to say, of all the things I've ever filmed, doing that was, I've never known cameramen filming it, laughing, trying to film it. So I thought, well, something is going on here. It was quite extraordinary. And Lazarus, you know, we had that was a demon from another realm, you know, that was in the spirit of the child catcher. That was our idea for him. His voice was our landlord, Peter Papa Lazarus. He's literally called that name. We never even changed the name. I mean, terrible. And also, in that day and age now, anything you put into a thing it's called neg check. They negatively check it for anyone else that, if there's say a restart officer called Paulie Campbell Jones. And there literally that was my restart officer. And we never changed the name. BBC never even thought to change it. So there will have been in 1999 a restart officer in Woodbury going, what the fuck are they doing? So, that's me. Turning up in the morning, you were on telly last night, what's that? You ain't come back. Because I was going to beat Paulie originally. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, I would say, you know, it's times change, things change, but the sensibility, there was always a heart about the league, and that's why it's endured, and that's why we came back and did those shows in 2017. And there was such love that I thought we would get a couple of little provincial theatres maybe filled. And we did the O2. It was extraordinary. Everyone came back and it was like they'd waited for 20 years to see those characters back again. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I guess anyone out there that might object to a character like Papa Lazarus, you've got an immediate defence in that you actually whited him up as well. So yeah. Now I'm going to ask about how your writing and personal and your concepts. You've touched on this a little already. Often seem to set personal challenges, like Inside Number 9, doing so many things like live episodes and the secret episode and so on. How much fun do you get out of that, and how easy is it to sort of devise something that you think has maybe never been done before, or is pushing the boundaries of television?
Well, that's it's a challenge, and it's always thrilling if you think you've pulled it off. But to set the bar, you know, our concepts for our things are never easily drawn because we're fans of it. And when you're a fan of a thing in a genre, you know what it's like to be a fan of something and think, oh, I've spoilt it now. And we would have it ringing in our ears all the time, embarking on new things, especially Number 9, which was always, it was never like, oh, they're doing Number 9, that's what they do. It was always week upon week, month upon month, felt like a new thing, like a new concept. So it was hard to come up with things that we thought, either just repeating themselves, you know, and there'll be things in it that will come out of it, I suspect, that are our themes, you know. The sensibility across all of it was that it's from me and Steve's mind, I guess. That's the glue that holds it all together. But yeah, it's great to keep pushing as far as you can with the constraints that you have, and to come out with things that surprise, especially if it felt like it was becoming this show that did pull the wool over people's eyes. So we leaned into that more and more. It became a pain to think, what haven't we done? People are going to be on to it. It's hard to go into a thing going, right, what's the twist? And, you know, just people knowing that they are looking for all is not as it seems. It was easier at the start when it was like, it's not necessarily always a twist at the end, but it became a bit of a trial to think, does everything have to be jaw-droppingly brilliant? Yes, apparently. So, you know, that would be the bar that we were trying to achieve. And, you know, the good thing about it was, in the end, it was something different every week. So now looking back at it as a body of work, there are 55, and you might love the more comedic ones, you might hate the horror ones, you might love the more real ones, you might not like the psychological ones. Yeah. So there's something for everyone, which is the nature of the anthology show.
My next question's about dressing in women's clothes. Most popular and famous drag artists tend to stick to one character or one type. When you drag on, you know, we look at Pam Douve, Judy Levinson, Bernice, the Silent Singer.
All beautiful women.
Yeah, and that's different from you as well. How much fun do you have playing female characters, and do you always try to make them different from each other?
Yeah, I mean, the league was us 3 performers and 4 of us writing it, and there was not a woman in our troupe. So when we played the women, had to be the women, and it wasn't drag. So, you know, Steve ended up playing a drag character in one of the episodes of number 9 in the 9th series. But when we portrayed the women, tried to be the women. And be these northern women that we knew as we knew the men.
So you're getting into their minds.
So yeah, the Stella. When I became Stella, I was totally Stella. And when Judy was a very different woman to Stella, different social strata in Judy's head at least. So it was fun to be able to play and try to look different. The other thing about the league was we did it on stage, we did it on the radio, and when it came to the TV, it was a massive challenge about the aesthetic, about how we would do the characters, what we would look like, you know, and we would have to be, the makeup would have to be goodish. We never had prosthetics really, we had a few, you know, I think we just tried to do it with the acting. It was always, the league was always about the truth of the character, however grotesque. I think you had them, at the heart of it was believable people. And that's why people cared about it in the end. I think it mattered what happened to Pauline, you know, she was, despite being this monster, she was really sympathetic and you felt for her in the end, you know, that's why we pulled on the heartstrings when we came back and she had dementia, you know, it's a terrible night for her. Pam Douve, this innocent woman that was desperate to get these auditions, and that was her acting technique, you know. School baby, back up, back up, back up! She never got a single job. But, you know, good on her for having her own style.
At least she had a go.
She had a go.
Now, we've got a few minutes left, and I'm going to devote the rest of the session to audience questions. Now, we may not fit too many into the 6 or 7 minutes we've got, but Tony's going to rove with the mic, so you might not get to ask your question, but can you show your hands, and Tony, can you pick out some people who I'm sure are going to ask fascinating questions of Mr. Shearsmith. Okay.
Hi, Reece.
Hello.
Sheffield in England. It's one of my favourite films. And there's a very specific scene in it in which you come as Whitehead, you come out of O'Neill's tent.
Yes.
And it's very engrossing, I would say.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what your thought process was. I know it's quite a while ago, but like, did you have something specific in mind when you came out? Was there like a thought or a feeling you had going on?
Yes, well, it's interesting. I don't know if you, who hasn't seen it? Too many of you. Well, anyway, yeah, it's Ben Wheatley film idea. It's black and white, 17th century. And there's a creepy bit in it where I go in this tent and it's like I'm playing like a magician. And you hear this in the script. It said that he goes into the tent and there is some sort of seeing this terrible thing, and then he comes out of the tent haunted like a changed man. So it didn't indicate in the script that when I come out I should be smiling. It was the opposite really. It felt like, because I'm screaming in the tent for hours and it looks horrifying, and then he comes out like broken. And I just thought, I'm not going to do that, because that's what you expect, that's what it reads as. So I waited, and then no one knew what I was going to do. And then I just put this horrible grin on my face, like I got mad, but I was euphoric. And I opened the tent flaps, and I came out, I was just grinning, looking. And I had in my mind the Evil Dead. That was what I was thinking of. One of the Evil Deads, when the girl in the cellar, when her face is beeping, and doing the cards, reading the cards, and grinning. That. So I thought of that, and I just did this walk, and then Ben and everyone, I think, was horrified by the choice, because it was not what they were expecting. Like, oh, well, that's horrible. And it seemed to fit the moment. I mean, he slowed it down, it was in slow motion in the film ultimately, and then they put this black mass on it, that horrible, haunting music. And it was great. I thought it's far creepier than when I did it on the day, but according to Ben, it wasn't. It was as weird on the day, because it's just not what anyone was expecting.
And Ben's film In the Earth is almost like a companion piece to it.
Yeah, it's sort of like that character was called Zach Whitehead, and he was a descendant of Whitehead from a field in England. So
and there's lots and lots of plots, sort of similarities and things that happen across the centuries.
That's right.
You know, in
That's all of those films are in a whole world, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, next question from the audience.
Hiya.
What was the first character you designed for the League of Gentlemen?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think because we did some of the characters that ended up being in the league on stage at the Canal Cafe in the 90s, a long time ago. Were you born then? No. That's like saying we were from the Jack the Ripper times. We did this thing. So we did lots of them on stage, but they weren't designed, they were just us in tuxedos. That was our outfit, and then we would have Pauline was just a clipboard and carry glasses. Jeff, I didn't have anything for Jeff, I didn't know it's I think. Just me, anyway. And so, but design was the TV. I think probably we thought about, the local shop was a good thing to think about. I was just doing Christopher Lee, really. But the noses came from Sellotape, from a little silly film we did years ago. And I used to draw the characters a little bit. Not like this is what you've got to do, but just as ideas for the things. So I think probably the Tubbs and Edward look with the nose up was one of the earliest designs for the lead characters. Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Hi Steve,
I'm Reece, but carry on.
I
don't know what you're saying, because I come and fucking punch you.
I'm really about to say Steve touched on it yesterday.
Oh, did he?
That you switched roles for Pauline and Papalazaroo.
Yeah.
Is there a character that you enjoy playing out of either League, Psychoville, or Inside the Nine?
I think, yeah, I can tell you the three, I think, which get down to, in League, I think I enjoy playing Jeff the most. And Ollie as well, Ollie Princess was an enjoyable character. And in Psychoville Maureen, David's mum, get that baby mild. Still makes me laugh so much that. Get it mild. And then number 9, it was hard in number 9, there's so many, but I did enjoy doing Neville Griffin, who was the magician. That, it's just because I got to cut Steve's head off with a guillotine. But I enjoyed doing that character because it was all magic. He was one of my obsessions, as is witch finding and killing women. Doing the witch finding episode as well. So I enjoyed that. They were my 3 probably. But yeah, we did used to swap around a little bit. Yeah. That's why you can't get our fucking names right.
You play so many characters, that's the thing.
Okay, next question.
Hi, I was wondering, you talked about your art earlier, like how much does it inspire your work now, how would you apply more artistic?
Yeah, I've not done as much art in my life as I would like. I was enjoyed and I was good at art at school. It was the one wasn't good at anything else. A bit good at English, but I didn't. A bit good at English. But my life was 2 trajectories. It was possibly the arts or it was acting, and that seemed out of the question because I never even had a drama lesson at school. You didn't have it as an option. So it was, in the end, I chose trying acting somehow. It was a degree course where I met Steve and Mark at Bretton Hall. But I've come back, like Mark has actually, to enjoying drawing more. And the book has inspired me to do a lot more drawing of recent times. So it's great. It's a very calming release, and I've just got such a it flows out of me when I get going, and I think you need to do more of it. I need to practice and keep my hand in, and I didn't for many years, but getting back into it again, I've really enjoyed doing stuff, and the book has been a help for that. It was like fun homework, and Taskmaster as well. That gave me a little boost because I love doing my. When the prize tasks, we had a bit more time to work on things. I love doing the doll's house thing, but I think I might auction that so there'll be someone might end up getting that as a prize. But yeah, so having that as a thing to just work on in the evenings, I should have not spent as long as I did. And then Greg Dennis, well, that was all like a week's work, a day's work, a day. it's like months of working on it. But yeah, it is inspiring, and I love doing it, and it's an outlet that I don't do enough of really, so I'm trying to do more of it.
Now we've got one more question here, if you can squeeze it in.
I think just about, yeah, it'll have to be a quick one, but yeah,
Okay.
we can just get one in. Yeah.
Hello, Reece.
Hello. Can't see you, but carry on. Now I can. Hello.
Hello. Are you and Reece going to make another
I'm not the only one.
Me and Reece are planning to do something. Yeah, we're writing a new thing now, or trying to write it. So we hope it will be made. Yes, if people think that we've, the scripts are being written, so it's not a given. You know, you think you've got a track record, but you're back to square one, and people will go, "What is it? Oh yeah, you used to be on the telly, didn't you?" So it's not a given. And we'll try and it's very us what we're working on. So if you like what we've done before, it's the same again, really. But,
Not about Christmas?
I'm not sure what idea, but we are going to steal it. So yes, Christmas witches that bird people. Yeah, sounds right up my street.
Reece, sadly, it's a case of come in, Reece Shearsmith, you're 30 minutes along. It's nowhere near long enough. We need you back here next year for another 30-minute session, and we can cover all the stuff we've not done today. You're off for your photo shoot now.